reflection?
I intentionally, chose not to pitch today because I couldn't remember the last time I got to go to rooms. So I was very firm about it today that I really want to be one of the observers today and I want to talk to multiple people. And it was a lot of fun. I went to Hemashree's room and the discussion over there was a lot more about learning language, the processes that we follow traditionally when it comes to learning language, how we first learn to speak a language, then we go on to its meaning, then we go on to sentence formation, memorizing, reading books. So it was a very structured traditional approach. Then I went to Daksh's room, and there the discussion was a lot more about the philosophy of language. Why we need language? Why is it that some languages are more complex or more poetic than other languages? Why some languages are colder? And we ended up with the classic question of is it the culture that has shaped the language, or did the language come first and has that shaped the culture and how the people are and how they think? So I think that is something that is always going to be up for debate in a lot of ways. I don't think it's possible to find a clear cut answer, but yeah, I think it was a very interesting conversation, and it made me reflect on how learning languages could have been a lot more interesting now and even as a child if the focus was not so much on just, memorizing words, learning how to pronounce them, and learning how to write them, but actually understanding where they came from. Like instead of just having to learn 10 synonyms of the same word, actually understanding the nuances of the differences in meaning in all 10 of those words.
So, Paridhi, what you're mentioning is called etymology.
Yeah.
Etymology is concerned with the history of the meaning of that word, right?
Yeah.
For example, I think awesome meant awful in the beginning, and then its meaning changed over a period of time or something. It's nice to. So I think whenever you're learning any word, an interesting way to learn that meaning is, I think, to start with root word analysis, also the history of the word, and to maybe try and use it in different ways. Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion to
Can I add something to
etymology.
that?
Yeah, sure.
Just one etymological example that I found really nice. Goodbye was started in the 17th century, and it meant God be with you. So when you're going outside the city walls, it's dangerous. I hope God is with you. However, in French, they say au revoir. Until we meet again. This life is just a stage, and we are actors. And let's see when the next time we have roles together.
Okay. Right. Thanks, Daksh. Over to you, Naman, for your reflection.
Yeah, so I started with Daksh's room because I found his idea very interesting of understanding using misunderstandings. So where there he started discussing about how we assume we take the errors first and try to fix those errors, and then we understand with those errors that what the things were going wrong, and this is the right thing which we fixed it. So from there, I moved on to the
Any example of an error that you fixed?
Personally, I fixed.
In the room, did you guys fix any particular error?
Till the time I left the room. After that, I don't know.
Okay.
Then we moved to Hemashree's room for where she was talking about how surroundings affects the language, the impact of the process, the fundamentals, speaking to the fundamentals for learning language in the early stages of the life, where we don't have multiple apps at those times for learning different languages like Duolingo and other things. So that time we have just one, we observe, we learn, and then in schools we write and learn. Then I moved on to Sahil's room where he was talking how do 5-year-old pertains to language. So we discussed about how we talk to 5-year-olds, like through sign languages, through gestures, through hand figure hand.
Hey, 5-year-olds speak language, man.
Yeah, they speak. That's what I mentioned where I was like, yeah, they speak. They understand language when you speak to them in a friendly manner, or they
No,
won't
you
talk.
don't need sign language and all. They understand language.
Yeah, but we tend to use more of a gestures while talking to them.
Okay.
Like many gestures we
Oh,
use. Like
you could actually use gestures while talking to everyone, not just 5-year-olds.
yeah,
Anyone understands better when you use gestures.
but as you grow up, you lose that property.
Sure. So yeah, that's a great point, right? To
Yeah.
try and use gestures with everyone.
Even now when I live in hostel, my warden's children come, I talk to them with gestures. But now I'm in a meeting, I don't look like yeah, this. I don't do that. So you see, like the lesser you move your hands, the more stable you would be considered, and that those all things, it is just feeded. So just people lose the move property of talking with gestures.
Brilliant. I think there's a brilliant observation. Thank you for this. Naveen. Yeah, over to you, Dia.
Okay, so like I went to two rooms. First, I went to Mohit's room where he was saying that culture shapes language. So, according to him, so different cultures that we live in have different languages, and according to that, it may sound different. So, he was saying that Bengali and Haryanvi are different, and if we like talk in Bengali, it sounds more softer, polite, and poetic, but in Haryanvi, it's like you sound like you're always angry, and that reminded me like when like you're listening to Marathi, right? Like it's like people are very cheeky, or you can say even sound rude, but when you're maybe listening to Magadhi or Bengali, it's like very it's because of the consonants and vowels that they use. The more the vowels, the more softer and just sweet the language sounds. And also language also shapes personality. That's what I feel like, because the more like for me, I can talk in like four languages, and in every language I speak, my personality comes off differently. A lot of people has told me that. And also it also reminded me that Piaget, there is a psychologist named Piaget who came up with like he asked the question like thought processes came first or language came first, like what developed first. So he was like language developed as a tool to like express our thought processes, or did or were we able to explain what we like, if we develop language first, and that's why our thought processes are just becoming refined more. So Shagun was also there, and she said that expressing our language is more important. Like thought processes was always there, it was evolving independently in human beings, but we developed language as a tool to express and communicate. And then I went to Himashri's room where she was giving a English language beginner's guide, and she was like first we learn sounds like alphabets, then we make words, sentences, rhymes, poems, and all that. And then we were in a debate like if we are talking in our mother tongue, then we are not first listening, understanding the sounds, and afterwards making a meaning. We first understand the meaning, and after that we start talking. And in English, it's the other way around. We are first learning the alphabets, learning small sentences, and then we are discovering let's say novels of Shakespeare and all, and then we are just going and looking in the dictionary like what it means. We could not understand the dialects and all, but then again that just like every language developed unstructured. It's just that after we started formal education, that we started learning every languages in structured way. Like even for Sanskrit, it was like there are people who are intellectuals who are writing like conversing in Sanskrit, but there was more for common people. Like there was a what we can say similar to Sanskrit, it's called Prakrit, which the
No,
common people
Prakrit is a
use.
different language. I mean, Prakrit is a title for the vernacular languages. The multiple languages are called Prakrits. But
So
then
it
there
doesn't
is
mean
one
like
place
that.
in Karnataka called Shivmoga. I think even today people speak Sanskrit there, and not in a formal sense. Yeah.
So yes,
Hmm.
that's all for me.
But Diya, see, I mean, you said that people can think even without language, right? I mean, there are philosophers of language who argue that it's language which has helped, which provides us the conceptual apparatus. I hope everyone is registering this. Language gives us the conceptual apparatus. So, you have a concept of a glass, you have a concept of happiness. All these concepts come to you because of language. So that's why language becomes very fundamental, because what concepts you have in your head, I think it's all coming from, language. In case you guys find this interesting, you can watch this. I'll share this link on DT, on the job learners group. It's this interview of John Seal, an MIT researcher. At MIT, he was researching AI consciousness and a few things 30, 40 years back. So he talks about philosophy of language in that video. In that, he argues how language gives you the conceptual apparatus. But yeah, I think these are very fundamental questions. Thank you, Diya. Over to you, Devanshi.
I have more to add.
I think we've heard quite a bit, so if that's okay, we'll go to Devanshi, right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
we I went to Dinesh room and he talked about how we can actually effectively learn language. So Artuha said that in order to learn French, you have to go to France. And I said not everyone has like that much resources to visit the place, the language you want to learn. One thing is vocab, I think, is situation based. So language is like the frame of the glass and vocabulary like the lenses. Vocabulary actually helps you perceive things differently. If you put different vocabs, same vocab in different sentences, they'll change. I mean, different like the synonym of the vocabulary in the same sentence, then the sentence would change itself. Your use of those particular vocabs in different situations actually change that whole meaning. And one thing is that in order to learn something, if you really want to master it, listen it. The only thing in order to learn a language you have to do is listen, because if you see fluent speakers, like native speakers we call them, when they are born in that place, they actually know their language much better. They don't speak after they are just born. They don't speak from that time. They listen first for 1 or 2 years and they then start speaking. So in order to learn a language, you have to listen to it. Listen to it. And one more thing I want to say is that success is directly related to vocabulary. You learn more vocabs, and you have higher chances of success, because vocabulary is not about just learning word and just cramming their meanings. It's about learning the related information too. That's all.
Thank you for this, Devanshi. Just to add a simple example, one sentence you can say, Daksh is very fast versus Daksh is very agile. Both appear very similar, but they're different. Fast is able to do the task very quickly. Agile is being able to make changes and still be able to do it quickly. So two very different ideas. So in a project management context, in terms of executing your projects well, I think the vocabulary you use while communicating with your teammates matters, because using the right words can bring that precision in what you're intending to convey, especially when your project is an innovative project which was never done before. So there the person has to imagine what's in your head, right? To help the person imagine what's in your head, I think being very sharp with the words you're using, I think could be useful. And just to challenge one argument a bit, Devanshi, native speakers of English struggle a lot with prepositions. So just listening or informal ways of learning may not suffice with all aspects of learning language, just to, add a dimension to what you said. But yeah, thank you. I think it was brilliant articulation of why vocabulary can shape the way you express yourself. Yeah, over to you, Anjana.
I was able to join two rooms. One was with Dinesh and other was with Rama Devi. And after joining Dinesh room, I actually realized, the vocabulary that is like it is not important that you know a lot of words. You have to use it and you have to gain that situation based learning in order to be an effective speaker. And from Ramadevi's room, I actually gained the insight that the role of curiosity that we have for learning, like in when we are all babies, we actually question a lot, and we learn a lot of things just by questioning. And I also find the correlation that as we age, our questioning kind of reduces, like the intensity reduced. Like in initial time we don't have any hesitation to ask questions about literally about everything. And yeah, I just got the insight on the curiosity part of the learning and the situation based learning for learning languages.
Okay, thank you, Anjana. Over to you, Daksh, for the last reflection of the day.
Yeah. There was a painting that I saw, a very famous painting. It's a picture of a pipe, and underneath that it says, "This is not a pipe." So the point of the picture was, this is a symbol for a pipe. It is not something that you can actually smoke. So in other words, symbols keep changing their meaning. The word gay used to mean happy. Now it means different sexuality. And another point I would like to raise is, we use certain words to communicate our community, certain in-group. There are certain slangs that we can use that you can say that, okay, I'm a part of this community because I use this slang. So I think it helps us bring meaning to the same old words, updates the meaning basically, depending on the situation.
Thank you, Daksh. Yeah, Devanshi.
Yeah, I'd like to say that vocabulary actually forms your identity. Because the information that you are learning, that forms you as a person. And those information is reflected through the vocabulary that you have. Let's say you are like consuming social media content, funny memes, and also you are going to use that kind of vocabulary in your daily life. And if you are consuming much more like self development and that kind of content, that you're gonna use that kind of vocabulary in your daily life. So it forms you as a person, and it actually forms your identity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, our mentor, Mr. Yugandhar Reddy, he was also talking about making a DT dictionary, because there is certain vocabulary that people tend to use in DT a lot, and for new people it was difficult. So he had suggested that. So yes, the identity that you're carrying is reflected by certain words that you use, right? And rather, I would like to add to that and say, Devanshi, I think when you have expertise in a particular domain, right? That expertise in that particular domain also comes with a certain vocabulary, because you find it too difficult to convey your thoughts without using those words. Like if you're a data scientist, think of communicating without using the word normalization, without using, data cleaning, some of these words, right? Because you're trying to do a lot of things and you want to communicate all of that. You just find that one or two words handy to communicate those frequently used thoughts. I think vocabulary helps you pack those frequently used thoughts, right? So yeah, that's a great thought. Vocabulary can reflect your identity. So yeah, guys, I think just a couple of thoughts to close. One, I think today's LDI was a little different, right? I mean, not React, not innovation, just something as fundamental as language and learning. So all I would say is, I think congratulations to all of us for engaging in meaningful conversations, meaningful, crazy, weird conversations in different dimensions, different aspects of thinking. So I think this just shows us how we can have meaningful conversations with new people, right? Great. And second, I would encourage all of you to send in your Socratic dialogue pitch. So we would want all of you to send at least 2 pitches a month, right? So I would encourage all of you to send a Socratic dialogue pitch, because this Socratic dialogue questionnaire on philosophy of language can fundamentally change the way you learn anything, right? So yeah, thanks a lot for participating in the LDI, and I hope this shapes the way you learn things going forward. Good night, everyone.